Today's topic will probably be a short one. It's something that came to me as I was on my way here. As you can see, I'm in a new setting. I'm at my mum and dad's house. They're in the Bahamas enjoying their best life. And I came to check on the house and I thought, let me just record this episode. And this episode is titled Embarrass Me in Private. And the reason why I picked the title of this episode is because anyone that knows me knows that I have had only a few embarrassing moments across my life, but they have been significant embarrassing moments. And there was a time where there was one particular story that I would tell and my friends would just thrive off of it. They would find it hilarious because I was still carrying the embarrassment. To tell the story, it still burned me to relive it. I was reliving it every time I spoke it out. And now I'm over it, who cares? But being embarrassed, no one likes to be embarrassed. I don't believe anyone enjoys embarrassment. However, for me, it's more about what happens inside. We can all have embarrassing moments where, we trip up in front of a load of people, or I don't know, there's so many different things that could happen that you would find embarrassing, and the same thing that may happen to you may happen to someone else and they're not as embarrassed. They can just laugh at themselves. But with me, when I am embarrassed, it attaches itself to what feels like my soul, and it's horrible. Now, I'm talking past. I haven't been embarrassed in a long time. I haven't been in a situation where I felt embarrassed in a long time. I'm sure a day will come, but it's been a while. And I remember just having this one particular thing that I was so embarrassed by, that happened when I was I want to say 18, that I used to, me and my friends, when we used to get together when we were a bit younger, and we would tell our most embarrassing stories now and again. And mine was always the same. And every time I retold that story, honestly, I was reliving it. And it cut deep. It hurt. It really did. Now I'm over it. I don't care. And I don't care to tell the story because it's... Now when you put things into perspective, it's wow, why were you embarrassed about that? But, it is what it is. I felt what I felt at the time. Embarrass me in private is significant because you don't get embarrassed by yourself. The only time that you feel embarrassed when you're by yourself is if you're watching something and you get secondhand embarrassment. You're watching something and you're like, oh no, why would you do that? That's the only time that you feel embarrassed, but it's not about you. But being embarrassed is only real when there's people around to witness whatever it is that you are embarrassed about. When you trip up in your house, you don't feel embarrassed. You don't really care. You're just like, what was that? You might be annoyed, but you're definitely not embarrassed. But if you place that, in Victoria Station, which has happened to me, I tripped up the stairs, I want to say. Not down the stairs, but up the stairs. And I remember I had headphones on, as I always do, and I screamed. Did I scream? A little bit, yeah, I did scream a little bit. But because I couldn't hear myself, I didn't feel as embarrassed. It wasn't like a scream, oh my God. It was just literally a reaction to me falling, but because I had my headphones on, I didn't really hear how loud it was. So it didn't feel as embarrassing, but I guess I felt embarrassed a little bit. But it's very different to falling in front of a group of people that you don't know to doing it in your house. And when it comes to relationships, and I'm talking romantic relationships specifically, when you decide to be with someone, you expect that they don't and would not embarrass you. And again, when you're behind closed doors, they may attempt to embarrass you or make you feel shameful if they're not obviously a nice partner. But ultimately, it doesn't burn as much if you were to take that same situation and put it in front of your mutual friends. And I remember when I used to say, and this is going to sound wild, but it's real. And I used to say, and I'm trying to like not sugarcoat, but like, how old was I? I don't even know how old I was, but I was definitely in my 20s. And I remember I used to say that I would rather my partner put his hands on me than cheat on me. And the reason why I said that at the time was because cheating involves someone else, which is where the embarrassment comes. And I didn't like to be embarrassed. Don't embarrass me. Like, if you're going to disrespect me, do it in a way that no one else needs to know. Because if you put your hands on me, in my head, I was like, if you put your hands on me, I'm going to leave straight away. Like, we're done, right? You put your hands on me, I'm gone. But if you cheat on me, I may leave, but you've embarrassed me and everyone knows. Like, I was young. And that statement came back to my thoughts recently when I thought about, oh, I said that and it actually happened. Like, I'm sure I was cheated on, but I never really knew about it if I was. Like, in a significant relationship of 12 years that was very toxic on and off, I imagine that I was cheated on. And there were moments where I found out things, but it was never concrete. It was never like, yeah, you actually did this. It was just still cheating, I guess, like talking to someone, but it was never anything physical from what I knew, but I'm pretty sure that it happened. He just hid it well. However, the day that he put his hands on me, I was like, whoa, shouldn't have said that, should I? And I don't know if I felt embarrassed, but then again, it was just done with me and him, right? So the first time it was done, it was just me and him. I was, to this day, I will still, don't get me wrong, at no point should anyone, man, woman, put their hands on someone else, like in a relationship, no matter what, like walk away. And you should never provoke and keep probing and provoking someone. Not that I did that, but I'm just saying, like, there's never an excuse, but also don't provoke someone to a point where they can't control their anger and they lash out. But it happened the first time, and the reason why I didn't necessarily feel embarrassed was because I didn't really feel scared when it was happening. And not many people knew, only my best friend at the time. I called her and she came round and she's like, we need to go. But in the end, I ended up staying. And yeah, so I didn't necessarily feel embarrassed in that moment, because there was not, like, my best friend's my best friend. Like, I'll tell you anything. So I don't feel embarrassed to you. Now, people that don't necessarily know me as well, I probably would have felt embarrassed, right? But then, so the first time was the first time. And also because I felt like I lacked good communication skills during that time. So the situation was, I went through his phone, I saw something I didn't like. And what happens with me at the time was that I would just go quiet. So I wouldn't attack or be like, what's this? I would just treat you not very nicely. Like, well, I just wouldn't talk to you. And I remember him being like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, nothing. And and then he tried to leave. I was like, you're not going anywhere, blah, 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 don't leave. And then it went left from there. But that was that. Now, the second time and final time, it only happened twice. Everything else was just threats and, but the second time and the final time was when we were on holiday, and it wasn't as intense as the first time, but it felt more intense, and I was 100% more embarrassed because it was on a strip in not Barcelona, in Portugal, and obviously it was busy, and I was like, what? How? So I didn't even attempt to defend myself in any way, because I was like, this is already embarrassing. People are staring at us and you want to do this. I was so embarrassed. So embarrassed that I can't even explain. But it was nowhere near as intense as the first time. Like, I'm not going to go into details, but it wasn't. But yet it hurt me more and cut me deeper because there were people around, strangers, but people around that I didn't know. So it's just interesting that, how much you put up with because it happens behind closed doors. And that is the most damaging part of anything. Like, we all have that thing when things happen to, well, I don't know, I can only talk for me, and I know my friends as females. It's something, we're in a relationship and something happens, whether it's cheating, whether it's physical, whether it's just general disrespect. And if you're not ready to leave that person, you're unlikely to tell your mum, because you know that the minute you tell your mum, it's over. It's almost like you're signing the contract to say, right, we're done here. So I didn't tell my parents or anyone that wasn't on my level, like my age mate, like my friends, because we were all kind of go in ridiculous relationships and we were there to support each other. And I think that's why we were so close during those years, was because we all were going through our own trauma, our own heartbreak, and we were there to lift each other up, although we were also trying to carry ourselves. But because it was still happening behind closed doors, and you were dealing with this just drama every day and toxicness, and not everything you tell your friends either. Some things you do keep to yourself, because you know that if your friend was to tell you the things that you're experiencing, you're going to turn around and be like, well, what are you doing? Leave. And you know that you should leave, but you don't. So you stay. But it's that embarrassment that keeps you from telling the people that love you, because you know that the minute you do, first and foremost, you're going to hate your partner. They're going to tell you things that you already know you should do, and you just try and avoid it. So it's really important that you don't get caught up in that dangerous game of, you know what, I'm going to keep all these things to myself and not talk to anyone, not let anyone in, because I know that they're going to say this, or I know that they're going to judge, or I know that this. Because you know what, the minute you do that, it's probably time to bounce. And don't get me wrong, every relationship has its problems, and it's between you and your partner to resolve those problems, and you don't invite everyone into your relationship. I think that's something I have learned as well. However, that's when you're in a healthy relationship. If your relationship is totally unhealthy and you know that the things that are happening are wrong, talk about it. And that's not to say talk to everyone. Not everyone needs to know your business, but talk to someone you trust, someone ideally that is not in a toxic relationship, or doesn't have the experience of surrounding themselves with something healthy, because you need that, because it will break you day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year. And being embarrassed in private may feel better on the surface because you don't have eyes and constant judgment, but what it does to you internally is just not worth it. I think the reason why I know the reason why I have gotten to a point now where I feel comfortable enough to share certain parts of my story. I mean, at one point I was gonna, and I still might, but was gonna put it just in a book and release it. But it's very different to sit in front of a camera and tell the story, because it feels a lot more like vulnerable and raw. And this is why I actually enjoy like the audio version of this. I do it separately I don't tend to take the audio from the video and put it on the audio, because the audio feels a bit more, I don't know, like I'm being protected because you can't see me. But I think it's really important to speak out and to speak things that have happened. And also it's a reminder to me of the things that, yes, that I have gone through and come through, but also to remind myself that you've already done this. This will never happen again. And if there's any sign that it could be going in that direction, you eliminate and you tell somebody. Because with all my experiences, there's no way I'm going to walk into another situation or be a part of anything that I don't feel is right. And I think we all get caught up in this. I said it in my last video, like we must be in a relationship and be this by this time and have kids, and that is success. But success is getting to a point in life where you know yourself, you love yourself, you know your worth, you have your values, and you stick to that. And the person that you join with when that day comes is a person that aligns with you in all of those things and uplifts you and brings out the best in you, and vice versa. Like, it's not about just, oh yeah, I've got a man, because I had a man for a very long time, and it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything if that person is doing the things that hurt you and destroy you internally. And you have your really happy moments, but they're just momentary, and you cling on to that because when it's really high, it's high. It's a bipolar relationship. You're in a bipolar relationship. That's what I was in. It was bipolar, because when we were good, we were good. We were happy. We were in love. We were doing all the things we wanted to do. We were having the best conversations, going to the best restaurants, and just, it was just high. And that was like, in one particular relationship, that was 2 years out of 12 years. So parts of it, that was high. The other 10 years was low, sad, depressing. But I think we were both chasing the high, because like I said, when it was good, and we almost felt like, well, if we can be at this place, then surely we can make this work. And we did try our best. Both of us tried our best to stay in that high moment for as long as we possibly could. But it failed because we were not meant to be together. We didn't align in really anything. And you have to know when it's time to break away, even if it feels like, oh, but I'm old and I don't know when I'll find anyone. Like, who cares? Better to be happy and at peace than to be destroyed and depressed forever, crying and just living in this monotone space. Like, it's just not nice. And I know that there's so many people that are just surviving and just trying to hold on in relationships. And that can go for any form of relationship. It also comes down to family. Like, just because they're your family does not mean that they get to embarrass you and attack you, and you turn around and say, oh, but they're family. Absolutely not. Boundaries are a must. And it's something that I don't think I've done enough with enforcing boundaries, but since I've been by myself, it's definitely something that I've felt very comfortable in doing. Like, I have my boundaries, and I'm not trying to offend anyone, but there has to be boundaries, because there wasn't for a very long time, and I refuse to just constantly live in this like here where I'm like, oh, I don't know who's gonna pull me this way or pull me down or pull me across, and I just don't know. No, you can't, because these are my boundaries and this is where I'm at. So you're either meeting me here or we're not meeting at all, and that's just what it comes down to. And this topic of embarrass me in private, I think everyone around the world has been in a situation or will be in a situation where someone does something to them, but it's not as bad because it was just me and them. Like you constantly hear even couples, like when they get pulled up in front of their friends, like their partner pulls them up in front of everyone, and it's like, why would you do that in front of everyone? Like, do that to me in private, which I agree with. But also sometimes you just have to, wrong is wrong. And if someone asks me a direct question of whether do you think that's right or wrong, there's a tactful way to deal with that so you don't hurt the person you're with. But ultimately, those things should be done in private. Like, you have a stern conversation in private, should I say. But when it comes down to someone intentionally going out of their way to disrespect you and tear you apart, whether it's conscious or not, whether they are in their head being malicious or not, you know what, it's better if they do it in front of people, because if you don't see it, if you can't, identify when someone needs to go, the people around you, assuming that they love and care about you, will tell you that that is not okay, that is wrong. And sometimes when things are done in private and then you talk to people about it, it's hard to sometimes, like for me, when friends tell me about like situations that they're going through, more so now with their partners, I try my best to be completely neutral, in the sense of, don't get me wrong, if my friend tells me something wild, I'm going to tell her that is wild. But I'm never going to be someone that says, this is a horrible person, you need to leave, unless they are a horrible person and you need to leave. But I always try and understand. I'm at that point now in life where I'm like, okay, what trauma is he dealing with? What is his relationship like with his father, with his mother? Did something happen to him? We need to identify. Not that that matters, so to speak, because my friend's hurting, but I'm at a point now where I'm trying to understand why you are this way. Whereas I think sometimes you need to just witness behavior, because someone may tell you something about someone, you're like, oh no, I can't imagine so and so doing that in a malicious way, or I don't think they probably didn't mean it that way, because you think you know their character. And sometimes you just need to see it play out, and people need to be caught out, because like we know people are being abused left, right and center, and when they're in person you wouldn't know. Obviously there's some people that can't hide it, but a lot of the time you don't know, you would never guess it. So it's like, stop hiding in private, because it doesn't help you, it doesn't help the person. And we want to live healthy, long lives, and one of the ways to help in that is to come out of hiding and just be, and let your friends, your family see you and see your relationship. And you'll know when you grow and mature emotionally, and heal from trauma and from the brokenness that has come from other people, you get to a point where you have that discernment to know, okay, this isn't for me. And you'll know, but you'll also know when, you know what, this man or this woman is fantastic. Yes, they have flaws, because everyone does. And yes, they may do things that I don't like. And that is between us, but we're going to work on that, because they're willing to work on that. Like, we're talking about it, we're communicating, and you do this thing, but let's try and evolve from it. Let's understand it and move on. That's when you know that you have something good, and you don't need to invite people into that relationship. But it's when things are happening and you're speaking out and you're saying, I don't feel great about this, and you're doing this and you're getting nothing back. It's almost like, well, you deserve it, or, well, I did this because of this. There's no accountability, there's nothing. It's just, that's when it's like, come out of hiding. Don't do it by yourself. Don't go through life battling that by yourself. I went through so much in my relationships by myself, not because I didn't have good people around me, but because I was embarrassed. I just wanted to deal with it myself, and I just felt like there's no point in me telling anyone, because there's nothing they can do apart from tell me that you deserve better, and I knew that. I knew that this wasn't the right relationship, but I stayed for my own reasons. So until I was ready, and when I was ready to leave one of my most toxic relationships, I remember coming here to my mum and dad's house and telling my mum a few things, not everything, but telling my mum a few things. I didn't want to give her a heart attack. And her saying to me, and her words were, if you need to hear me give you permission to leave, then leave. When I tell you, in that moment, the relief I felt, and that was it. I was done, and there was no going back. And I don't know why I needed her to tell me that it was okay to leave. And I know at that time there was a lot of things going on in my relationship where I felt like I couldn't leave, and I felt like I owed it to the relationship to stay, and I needed to show up. But when my mum said those words, and I did think, I wish I spoke to you 5 years ago, but it happened when it happened, and it needed to happen when it needed to happen. Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, sometimes you just need to come out of hiding and let people embarrass you in front of other people for you to actually see, this is not for me.